2022 was a great year for gaming. Retro gaming, modern gaming, doesn't matter. 2022 was a great year. Let's talk about the top games that I played during 2022. What was the games that I played the most, that I enjoyed the most? I play a large variety of games. Everything from Barbie for the NES to, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim for the Nintendo Switch. I play it all. I do it all. Let's get started. So we're going to start off in no particular order, but I happen to know what the first game is on the list here. This is a large variety here. I got 6 games that I'm going to be flying through. And number 1 should come as no surprise if you've been watching all the videos that I made. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. This is actually the pre-order edition. Came with a bunch of bonus art cards. And by the way, this game's on sale as we speak. And you can pick it up pretty cheap. It's probably not going to be the day 1 pre-order edition bonus. But if you're not looking for day 1 edition, you can get it for fairly cheap. I'm going to tell you straight up, I went into this game blind when I first found this game. I bought it because I looked at the trailer, I watched the trailer, and the trailer doesn't tell you nothing about the game. It doesn't even tell you what type of game it is. I went into this blind. I didn't even know what it was. I honestly had no idea what kind of game it was. But I watched the trailer. It was intriguing. Like, hey, man, what's going on here? Like, what's the story here? What kind of game is this? It kind of looked like it might be an RPG, but they didn't show any combat or anything that you could tell was combat, not knowing what it was. But I read the comments, and the comments got me. There were so many great games on there. I'll never forget the one comment a user wrote, paraphrasing, something along the lines of that he wishes that he could delete his memory and go back in time to play this game again and experience what it was like to go through this game not knowing the story. Because if now that I've beaten this game, if I went back and I played it again, I already know the story. The plot twists and all the surprises, they're all gone. I know what's going on. And after I beat the game, I realized exactly why he said that. And that if he had a time machine or 3 wishes from a genie, of all the wishes in the world, one of them would be to go back in time just to play this game. Because that's how good this game is. That's how good it is. And I think that you, the watcher, the one watching this right now, you in the red sweater, you in the blue sweater, and you in the brown sweater, you should all go and pick this game up right now and start playing it. And you go into it blind. Don't even look it up. Don't look how to play it. I'll reveal one thing though. It is a adventure, real-time tactics strategy game. Okay, the combat is done in a strategy game, so I'm going to give a couple of spoilers for that. I'm not going to tell you nothing about the story though. And the adventure part though, that's where the game really shines. The combat is actually not all that great, and it did get bashed a little bit, to be honest. But the adventure part of the game, which is, I call it a visual novel style game just because it's so story heavy, is played out in a 2D side-scrolling stages. And it's not linear, so lots of exploration, a lot of running around. You're kind of playing a detective at certain times, doing some detective work. And just know that the graphics are beautiful, voice acting. The voice actors do an amazing job. The whole game is voice acted. Every single piece of dialogue in this game is done by a voice actor. So you can read it or you can listen to them talk at the same time. And yeah, this game, I'll just tell you one thing. This game is so good that by the time you finish this game, you will have a strong desire to pick up a loaded gun, point that gun at your own balls, and pull that trigger. You ever played a game so good it would make you want to blow your own balls off? If you haven't played a game that good, now is your opportunity. It's an experience unlike any other experience.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
You have to experience it to understand. And you'll only get it through a game like that right there. So what else did I play a lot? Oh yeah, here's a good one. Octopath Traveler. Now, admittedly, I started this game early in the year, and then I took a break. Actually, I think I probably started it in 2021, actually. But I had taken a break. Picked it up again in 2022, and I remember taking a break to go play a different game. And the only reason I took a break is because one of the characters, the story was so bad it had turned me off from the game. There's a couple of really slow parts in the story in this game, so it's not known for having a great story. I'm only 25 hours in right now, and I'm told this game could go over 100 hours if you do all the side quests. So I don't know the full story. I've heard that it gets much better. You have 8 characters, and I'm told that the stories all merge at some point, toward the latter end of the game. I'm not there yet. But I did pick it up again recently. I dropped in another 10 hours recently. And what really got me going again is the story picked up again. And actually, I got to the character Primrose the Dancer, and she has a really good story, and it got me back into the game. And I said, okay, my love for this game is returning. It has some of the best graphics of any game ever made. I love that 2.5D or whatever they're calling it graphics in that pixel art style, 16-bit graphics style. Oh my gosh, gives me a boner. Every time I see it, I get a boner. I can't help it. It looks so good. And the music's pretty good too. It's no Final Fantasy VI. It's got nothing on Final Fantasy VI, but it's pretty good in its own right. It's got some classics like that title music, that classic startup title music. Doesn't get any better than that throughout the rest of the game. And yeah, the combat is very innovative. They've learned how to make turn-based RPGs fun again. Okay? And that's all I'm going to say about that. I do recommend it. I do. But you got to know that some of the story parts are real slow. But the graphics, oh my gosh, I'm going to show you some graphics on the screen. Wow, very stunning stuff. Next game up is Senran Kagura Peach Ball. This game, the girls in this game have huge pinballs, because this is a pinball game. And I'm just kidding, this is a joke. This is not one of my top played games. But you know what? It might be in 2023. I ain't gonna lie, guys. I do own this game. There's no sense in hiding it. I own it. I paid good money for it. But that wasn't the actual game that was coming up. AI Insomnium Files Nirvana Initiative. This is the game that I started playing when I took a break from Octopath Traveler. And I got mixed feelings about this game. I had parts of it where I loved it. When I first started, this game was amazing. So they classify this game as an adventure game, but I like to call it an adventure visual novel style game, because it's mostly just a story. The gameplay is very basic. It's basically a visual novel game in the form of an adventure game, because you do get to run around and interact with objects, but there's no combat. There's some quick time events to spice things up a little bit. Voice actors do a great job, but here's the thing about this game. At the beginning, it starts off so strong. The storyline is so great. Voice actors are so good. But once I hit the middle part of that game, which is a big chunk of the game, it went downhill fast. Oh my gosh, I was forcing myself to finish it. I was so deep into it that I couldn't just not finish the game. I could not just not finish the game. And you know what? It paid off in the end because I did finish it, as painful as it was, and it picked up toward the end. It did pick up toward the end. And the ending of the game had its cringy moments where I said, oh my gosh, even the ending is terrible. But then it also had some moments where I said, holy crap, this ending is hilarious and it's awesome. And that's the other thing about this game, is the writing. The reason why the story is so bad for a good, very large portion of the game is because it looks like a friggin' 6-year-old wrote the story. Like, I'm sorry, it's so unrealistic, and the writing is bad. It's like an 8-year-old wrote the script. And there's going to be some people out there that'll try to tell you otherwise, but I'm telling you, they've never played a good RPG with a great script. Then go play 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, and then you tell me that this game has a good script, because it doesn't. They did a terrible job. But I know it wasn't directed at kids. A lot of time I was playing this, I'm like, is this directed at kids? But I know it wasn't, because they had adult humor in here. A lot of adult humor that kids probably wouldn't pick up on all of it. Some of it very subtle, which added to the humor. But other than that, yeah, I do highly recommend it. But get it used and don't pay too much for it. And know what you're getting into. Because if you're not into that, don't do it.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. I'll never forget. It's the left half of his body. That body teleported here from a parallel world!
The base sequence was an exact match with the left half that was found.
There are no signs of him ever having been frozen.
And yet his time of death is 12 o'clock today.
The estimated time of death is approximately 9 hours ago.
Next up, To the Moon. Holy hell, this is a good game. It's a short game, though. It's a very short game. I don't remember how long it took me to complete it. I want to say 8 hours. Maybe even 6. I'm not sure. And that might have been because I left the game running a couple times even. I don't remember. Let's just say 8 hours. It's all story. There's no combat. 0 combat. It does come with a little cool manual. So they classify this game as a psychological drama. I'll throw in the word visual novel again. I call anything where you're reading a lot of text, and reading text is the story of the game and the bulk of the game and just moving around. I like to call it a visual novel style game. So the OG version of this game originally came out for PC back in 2011. The Switch version came out much later. I'm not going to give much away other than you play as 2 scientists where your objective is to fulfill a dying man's wish. And the dying man's wish is to go to the moon. And to fulfill this wish, you have to go into his memories. And that's all I'm going to tell you. You have to experience it for yourself. And I'll mention another thing. It did get some awards for having a great story back in 2011. It won the award for Best Story. They're apparently making a film based on this game. I think it's an animated film. That's what I've heard. I don't know much else. And I'm going to mention that the music is great. And the main theme is so simplistic. But the simplicity of the theme and knowing the story behind the theme and knowing the story behind the music turns it into some sort of masterpiece better than anything Mozart himself had ever written. Yet it's so simple. And that adds to the flavor of the song. And people love the music in this game, yeah. So if you're into games that don't have combat, I'll recommend that one to you. And finally, I did play Gain Ground for the Sega Genesis. I was playing it on the Sega Genesis Mini. Okay, Gain Ground is a action strategy game in a genre all of its own. That's the best way to describe it. In fact, it's probably the only way to describe it. But it's a genre all of its own, never been done before. Impossible to even describe. You'll have to just look at the gameplay and understand how to be able to understand how to play. There's 20 characters, all extremely unique with strengths and weaknesses. Not only strengths and weaknesses in terms of speed, but in terms of weaponry is so diverse. Some weapons can't shoot over walls. Some weapons can't shoot high. Some weapons can only shoot straight. They can't go left to right. They can't go backwards. And some can do all of the above and all of the anything that I haven't mentioned. Some can only shoot left, right. Some can only shoot backwards. I mean, everything under the sun. There's such variety, and you have to be very strategic. And you have to take into all considerations. But the thing about that game is it is meant to be played two-player co-op, and that's the way that I play it. I don't play single player. That's not meant to be single player. Do not play a game like that single player. Don't do it. Please, don't. You might be tempted to do it, but don't do it. And you can play it on a Genesis collection. You can pick this up for the Nintendo Switch as well. It's a little bit pricier. They've made this on every console ever made since the 360 days, PS3 era. Or if you have a Sega Genesis Mini, you can hack it and play the games that way. Okay? That's what I recommend. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, I also played a crap ton of Bushido Blade 1 and 2. Bushido Blade came out in 1997. This is a Squaresoft game before they became Square Enix. This is a realistic fighting game unlike any game ever made before at this time. And to this day, really, it's realistic because there's one-hit kills and they're very common. Like, you are samurais and you are ninjas and you are fighting, and if I slice you, you're gonna die. Like, that's just the way. I stab you in the stomach, you're dead. That's the way it is. But it's also realistic because guess what? I can slice your arm off. Although it won't actually cut your arm off. You'll just lose like your limb. So they didn't make it too gory. I mean, come on, this is 1997. I could slice your legs off. You can bleed out to death in some cases. You can get so immobilized that you're basically rolling around on the ground and you can't fight. Or you might be rolling around on the ground because your legs don't work and one of your arms don't work. But you still got one hand and you're trying to slice the guy and you can only hit him in the feet. And maybe you get lucky, you chop his feet off and now he's on the ground. And and then you cut him down even further and now he's rolling around and you're both rolling around trying to hit each other with a sword. Like, there's unlimited possibilities. And I played number 1 and 2. Number 2 is better because there's more characters. And probably more weapons. So number 2 wins by default. But number 1 ain't no joke. It's one of my favorite fighting games of all time, if not my favorite. This is right up there with Marvel vs. Capcom number 2. Those are my 2 favorite fighting games of all time. Hell, it's even up there with Shaq Fu. And I just want to give one quick honorable mention to Doki Doki Literature Club. I started this game in 2021 and I completed it in 2022. So most of my hours were probably put in back in 2021, so it didn't make the list. Love this game. Highly recommend going into it blind, but just know that it is a visual novel style game. So if that's not your thing, don't bother. PC version is best. Can't tell you why. That's a secret. And before I forget, in case you haven't figured it out, I am legally insane and I am trying to collect over 9,000 video games. Why am I trying to do that? Well, I'm legally insane. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm trying to pump out more content. I'm trying to produce content that you guys enjoy. So if you enjoyed this, please leave a comment below and let me know.